بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. محدثكم خليفة السويدي من دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة. أتقدم بالشكر الجزيل للمملكة المغربية لاستضافة هذا المؤتمر المهم. جلستنا اليوم مختلفة قليلا عن الجلسات.
Good morning, Khalid Swihli from Emirates. Our talk today will be quite different from what we are hearing in such meetings, because when it comes to developing the economy, the property and land sector is considered as very important and the key sector to develop economy. And when we talk about real estate in general, it's not just securing the needs of people in terms of residence and habitat. The housing is something crucial in every country in the world. But when it comes to the economic field, when the habitat sector is well organized and developed, it helps also the economy. Because when we talk about land and property, we don't mean just providing houses and habitats, but it's a long journey that starts by land acquisition, building the property, and benefiting from the property, and also creating economic opportunities that come along, and many services that are included, and that can attract investments in this sector. I am from Dubai. It was a small city, but was developed thanks to the instructions of leadership, and cannot be compared to some very old and historical cities in the Arab world, and I hope the best for all the Arab cities. So, in the beginning, my guest in this session, Madam Badria, is the director of administrative policies, and also Koaga, the head of the program and coordinator of the Center of the African Policies. And we have the architect Khalid Saddiq, is the head of the Urban Fund from Egypt, and Claudine Karaki, high consultant of the Ministry of Finance from Lebanon, and Mariam Jaja, the general director of the Arab Group for protecting nature from Jordan. So our talk this morning is about the use and implementation of the new tools and technological tools in the field of property. So my question to Madam Badria, from your experience in real estate and your work in the Kingdom of Morocco, can the regulations and the laws that are existing today, can they support and can they be considered as a ground to use the technological techniques? Allow me, because I will talk in French.
First, I would like to tell you that it's a real honor to be part of this third Arab Land Conference, and I would like to seize this opportunity to thank our friend countries to be amongst us, so we can share our best practices. It's an honor for me to be in this panel, this round table, a high-level round table to talks about land and that looks at the innovative side of it. I would like to start by talking about some challenges, to remind you of the challenges, but also to set the context. I will share with you the challenges of Morocco that are also the same challenges for the Arab countries. As you know, Morocco has seen urban movement that's very important, that is confirmed in the last census of 2024, and that will keep growing by 2050, same as all the Arab countries present among us today. So this urban change question us or ask us to start thinking about the land resource, because the land resource has a cost, is scarce, that is regulated, so we all have to use this resource the best way possible. So I would like to remind you that some of the problems we do have, before even talking about the legal framework and how it supports innovation. So the land resource is much more difficult to access. It's costly. We all see an increased cost to it. There is also a conflict of use. Do we use it for agriculture, for industry, for habitat, and that can create some tension. And also, as you may know, to access land at the urban side, you also need the infrastructure to support it. And these infrastructures have a cost, so we cannot just build city without infrastructures. And let's not forget the impact of climate change. So we are all seeing a lot of natural disasters, health disasters, and the risk is an important issue to take into account. Of course, we also have the issue of innovation. What can new technologies, especially digital, bring to the table? First to us, Morocco, but to all countries that are among us. How to reduce the digital break and how to support the evolution of or the digital reform. So we are seeing the same challenges, the same problems in all countries. So how did Morocco answer those issues? Under the guidelines of His Majesty the King, we set some referentials that are extremely important. So in all the guidelines of His Majesty, they talk about sustainable use of land, about sustainable investment, and as you know, Morocco has a roadmap for 2035. It is the new development model of Morocco, and it puts the digital transformation at the heart of this new strategy. First, to accelerate the growth, but also to improve the competitiveness of our country. The objective is to put the kingdom in the first third in all rankings globally, and also to set some ecosystems that are around this ambition of integrated sustainable development of urban development of our country. So Morocco has also decided to do an advanced regionalization. So through it, we had put this regional side, and also we set the governance at the territory level, which is very important. We have also set, in terms of regulation, a new charter for investment. This new charter for investment today points to all the problems that we can find in the field of land. So through this charter that is supported through a specific governance, so we have 12 regional centers for investment, and that are 12 platforms. It's called Morocco Invest. So the idea is to have an investment into strategic sectors, also reduce the gaps between the regions, reduce the gaps in the access to land, and reduce the gap in the sectorial side in order to guide the investor into sustainable investment, an investment that will generate revenue in the chosen sectors. We have amongst us the representative of land issue in Morocco, especially the registration administration. So we have done land consultations throughout the nation, throughout the nation, and this consultation led to a strategy that calls for having a modern land model. We reformed the registration office, and this reform covered many topics. One of them was the registration itself. So today, in order for land to become an accessible resource to all, a lot of efforts were deployed to register all land. So we are in this trajectory to scale it up. The same way, many strategies, many programs were made official in Morocco. So these strategies are governed by by legal framework, but they are done at the regional level. So there are many strategies: 2030, 2035, 2040, 2045, and they are there to implement our vision on the land issue. So how are these strategies developed? Or how are they implemented? They are implemented through the digital transformation, following the guidelines of His Majesty the King. So first, we start with the digitalization of the administration. That's the first thing to do. The first thing is to make our process at the administration digital. It is also developing a digital economy that supports today the enterprises, that supports the private sector. It is support for the sector to lighter regulations and other orientations that are being implemented of this strategy. It is improving the infrastructure, improving the access to infrastructure, which is important, and there is also the digital inclusion through capacity building, and finally what we call the digital sovereignty, with all the security or the safety aspects that comes with it. So I first wanted to talk about the ecosystem of Morocco. I wanted to talk about the general regulations and that talk about many sectors. We will talk later about the legal framework in the urban sector, and or maybe we can come back to it later. Look.
وستكون لي أيضا كذلك أسئلة أخرى إن شاء الله بعد السؤال هذا لكن نعطي
much will come back to you. We will give the floor to the other panelists in this session. Mr. Khalid from the Republic of Egypt. Of course, Egypt is a great country, and the real estate development in Egypt is one of the examples that we have seen. Many development are very promising future that serve the Egyptian citizens. From your own perspective, with the new technology we have, DeepSeek comes from China, and the AI from USA, and with sophisticated programs like the blockchain and the smart contracts for the report. From your own perspective, Egypt, do you expect and anticipate the technological sophistication that will be adopted in Egypt? Will it have a push and a boost for supporting investment, especially the foreign investment? Let me say, it has already been done, and I think Egypt in the last decade, while using the technology for all the programs and all the modern technology, we have used it to say that what can be done with that, and I believe that everybody knows today that the real estate is has been developed, and everybody would say that this speed might have something that is positive or negative. This demonstrates there is a usage of technology today, and we come to a stage and a phase that we have started to monitor lands. For example, in the fund, it has we used to call it Fund for Developing Marginalized and Vulnerable Areas. Now we have given it a new name after we have a new ranking, so we call it the Fund for the Urban Development, meaning that the cities within the Republic. What we can say, Egypt is a good example for our conference, our panel, that we monitor work. All the engineers, all the architects, they have tablets. So when a person in the office has a tablet and can monitor and screen all the projects and what is happening in even remote projects. You know, Egypt is a very large one. Now, using a dashboard, this is very important. When the dashboard has all the information in the real estate, and its objective is to reorient the strategy in developing any other region. Now we can take a decision while being in the office. Before, I have been the president of the fund. I used to travel a lot and to be mobilized most of the time. Now the decision is taken how we can see the lands, the zones, and monitoring and ranking the lands. This has given us facility to see what kind of land do I have and what are the need of the region for the networking about the premises. So I can say that my decision would be what is appropriate for this land and what is the best project we can do for that. We have certain lands everybody knows the Abu Ard land within the old Cairo. We called it Fustat zone. Now it changed from 500 acres. It was a place for the waste. So we have 500 land. Now we use it for the buildings. And now it has been used for a central park. We have the animal zoo. It exists, but we need an entertaining park. It would be a complementing one. So this land becomes a park. It will be something important in Africa, one of the universal parks. So we're talking about also 500 acres in Egypt. We will be very proud to have the region of the place called Fustat. Now, when somebody asks you where do you live, you said, I am living close to the pyramid. I'm not talking about the Giza. I'm talking about another region that is a more sophisticated one. It is very popular now in Egypt. So there has been important studies. There's also a neighboring area called Barat. It overviews different parks. So while using new technology, a dashboard, digitalization in our work. So now we come to a phase that we can compete with time. What we used to achieve in 1-2 years, we can do it now in a shorter time based on modern studies, while being in the office, as I said. Thank you, sir. The Republic of Egypt, there is continuous development, and this advancement happened in Egypt, and I think all the Arab regions and for Africa. My question to Juan, being in the African country, the continent where there are many resources and can be invested for the development of the African citizens and the region. Do you have any examples for technical projects? I have read before that Rwanda, they had many technical projects or technology or project that has been implemented all over the country, and how this technology register the right of the real estate and to facilitate the investment over lands. Do you have other examples from the African continent that you can share with us? Thank you.
Would you like me to repeat the question in English, Dr. Juan? No. Okay. It's working. It's working.
It's working?
Yeah.
Okay, great. No, I think I understand it. But let me start by saying that what I have heard from what has happened in Morocco and Egypt comes as a result of firm commitment from leadership, which is exactly what happened in the case, for instance, of Rwanda. So on the African continent, what we promoted at the continental level is a platform where countries can learn from one another in the context of the African Union Summit, but also in the context of the Specialized Technical Committee that oversees work of land and agriculture. So getting onto that platform in itself for matters land governance, and as you know, land governance, I would say it used to be a very contentious issue. I don't think it is anymore. But I think that is because of the work that has been done by those that are sitting here to develop tools that have helped to demystify the issue of land governance, removing it only from the realm of the political to bringing it more closer to economic related issues. So it does help when our leadership sees the direct connection between good land management and the use of these tools and development in itself. So I would say that's where it starts. So in the African continent, where, in my view, including, for instance, this region, where that commitment has been exercised and realized, then everything else seems to follow. The next thing, I believe, it's one where you take the continental, global tools and domesticate them at country level. This does require some element of capacity building and capacity development, especially in countries where we don't have that inherent human resource capacity, but also financial capacity. So the partnerships, even in the case of Rwanda, in the case of Ethiopia, for instance, where you have complexity of systems that go from the central, but also to the regional government, but where we have seen land tenure being secured and the use of tools that, for instance, were developed by the Global Land Tool Network, including the STDM. Many of you are sitting here, Clarissa, you're here, and other colleagues, and using them not to replace systems that exist, but using them to answer questions of the complexity that exists on the ground, and using those tools to ask ourselves, how do we secure the land rights so that we can then advance investments at rural sector, but also investments in the urban sector. Where we have seen the sprawl of slums, the question then becomes, how do we reverse that? In countries where we have had that, there's a lot of development. If you come where I live in Ethiopia, that have occurred. It's a complex situation where you have slums and you're converting them to high-rise buildings. But it has happened. But it does leave us also asking questions of, are we marginalizing anybody in that process? And how do we address those people who could be marginalized by maybe integrating them in the context of that development and using tools that help us to first identify who they are and secure their rights, and then go ahead and then answer the questions of how we do that. So I would say that in general, issues of leadership, commitment, and capacities, partnerships that help us to do that, even as we engage with our bilateral partners, we engage knowing that land is central. It's not just about the issues of agriculture, issues of tourism, issues of mining. But in the context of agriculture, how do we mainstream the land issue in those other sectors, including the urban sector, so that we address those issues? Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. شكرا جزيلا دكتورة جوان.
Thank you very much. I recall then I remember how the corona pandemic impacted the economy in the world. And I remember, or I recall, or I anticipate that the governments who had digital infrastructure could be able to present many of the services to the citizens and to the investors in their own countries. I know that using new technology will be beneficiary to society and to the investment opportunities and private sector. I would like to ask the question to Claudine from Lebanon. Post the economic crisis, what Lebanon has done to recruit investment technologically wise, or the way you conduct it in Lebanon?
First of all, it is my honor to be here in this conference about housing and investment in housing. For the Lebanese experiment, it is indeed a unique experience. If we talk about the past with all the crises, this country has gone through, or just as we can say that Lebanon is the phoenix bird, always stemming from the ashes. After the conception of the new government, we have a new situation. But before answering the question, I would just want to say that we are in a housing industry, a land industry. The new government has taken upon itself to do immediate reforms, and thanks to God and His grace, Lebanon is a land that is able to be reformed. It has a good land infrastructure, and this is since the year 99 with the World Bank project. We had a full digitization of all the lands in Lebanon and a mechanized, automatized land registry. We have now new challenges, and we have 6 axes. First of all, facilitated and affordable housing for the private and the public sector. Secondly, the policies of green housing and smart housing. And at the Lebanese level, indeed, it has demonstrated a good potential, since we have right now sustainability in the Lebanese housing, and this is despite not having financial support. And I have an example that has been cited by His Excellency the Minister, which is the American Lebanese University. It has demonstrated how the private sector can work with smart standards for these smart cities we are talking about. And thanks to the commitment to these standards, it has been a candidate for 6 awards. And this accomplishment has been chosen because this university that has taken place in a rural area called the Blat in the mountains, and we have been able to baptize and construct a small city including AI, internet, every technological aspect is present there. This is a demonstration of the Lebanese will and how they can work individually and work in the private sector. The cooperation between the private and the public sector is something that is very important. We are still working on it, especially with the new government and the new Ministry of Finance, who is an entrepreneur who has much experience and work with the private sector, especially in real estate and lands and housing. Currently he is working on the full digitalization of the housing and lands. Currently we are working on the validation of the project in the Parliament, a project in which we have one-stop shop for each person who wants to buy a land. Due to this project of this portal, he will not go to the ministry, he can do his whole operation online. Secondly, Lebanon has launched 6 technological electronic services. These services are holistic. I will not go into further details, but the most important one is the push notification, which is related to an outside or a foreign investor who has the access to the informations to all modifications or all updates about his land. Everything is done through digital e-services, and In the case of a person who wants to buy a land or sell a land, he can go to the portal, to the website. He can see the fees, the price, and this is not only for transparency but also to prevent blackmailing and corruption. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Akluddin. The Lebanese Republic is still the destination that is preferred by many Arabs, and we hope for the return of stability to this country. One of the points you have evoked is the sustainable aspect of real estate in LAC. You have also talked about the cooperation at the societal level and how we can work around it. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, thank you for the invitation. Before starting, I would love to give a moment of appreciation, of silence for all the defenders of the lands in Syria, Palestine, and all different areas of the Arab world. Thank you very much. I will start by saying that the absence of a good repertoire related to culture, to political will, the security of tenure is the initiation to land grabbing. Innovation and activity needs to be channeled through this portal. We need to relate this innovation in a channeled manner as to not turn this innovation into something sinister. How can we prevent this and achieve this? What's most important is to work in cooperation, to work at the national level, at the regional level, to share practices and experiences. We need to make sure that the civil society, which has a long lived experience, they should not be excluded from these mechanisms. We need to stay away from the greed of investors. And one of the most important aspects of this strategy is our governance and our sovereignty over food and food security. We have now the weaponization of aliments and food in Palestine, which is a severe case of bad exploitation. We only work on 30% of our lands in terms of agriculture. We are big importers. We need to believe in national, regional, complementary investments and to invest in these areas. This demands to stop being linked to some sinister policies which have forced us to reduce the costs and expenses on agriculture, on infrastructure of agriculture, and has limited innovation in the agriculture sector. And we have been forced to do exportations, cheap exportations that hinder our work and threatens the health of our soil. The prices of the lands have been rising, which have pushed people to move away from these lands. We need to free the debts of agricultures. What has started by the occupation is still extended and going until today. This policy that is hindering our progress. We need to take the best practices from the West, but we cannot copy the West. We need to learn from their success and their failures. However, we do not allow ourselves to forget about our intricacies, about our cultural specificities. The individualization and private property do harm our marginalized sectors. Other recommendations. First of all, I would like to highlight the importance of understanding the security of tenure. And we have worked on negotiations on this in this regard, especially regarding the commitments of countries outside of their own lands. Secondly, to support local initiatives who are linked to this compass we have been talking about, which is very important in our organization. We have planted many trees in Palestine, in Jordan, and we have helped the Palestinian population during the war. The importance of investment in giving importance to the struggle of the people due to wars. And here, now, at this time, there are people who come to say that I will buy Gaza, I will own it. And they say also that they will own it and keep it. This is a conclusion of the whole capitalist way of thinking. The road is long and not easy, but we can put a light on it together. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Miriam. We were wishing that, well, we learned that we have been working with the technology. We wished for more results from this technological revolution. Now I give the floor to the presents for questions, if anyone has any inquiries. Hello, I am the architect Khalid Jabrallah, Minister of Infrastructure and Development in Sudan. In fact, the conflict on lands and natural resources is a big problem that is cause for much thinking for governments. Armed conflicts, etc., have hindered the development of the country and has destroyed the resources. We need a regional mechanism that enforces the sovereignty of the land. Land is the most important factor in realizing peace, social justice, and the good and fair exploitation of resources. In Sudan, we needed a mechanism which has a historical responsibility. This mechanism has been an observatory, and with this observatory we have faced many challenges. First of all, we needed to find the balance between investments and natural resources to also work in a sustainable way. These are the essential elements, and it is also linked to the different resources. Another challenge is related to the validation of new procedures regarding to informal exploitation of the land. Another challenge is the lack of complementarity between stakeholders and the private and the public sector. And due to this, there has been no way to find smart complement. We are talking about the technical aspects of the Arab lands. I do not deny what you have been saying, Ms. Mariam. However, we need to take the most advantage to talk about technical and technological aspects. How can we manage to have the best results from technologies to work on the land property and bring in investments? But part that is talking about how the citizen can work, can manage to find himself able to protect his property, to exploit the land fairly. How can we work towards building smart cities that enable solutions for societies and countries? So, my wish is that for the interventions to be around technical aspects, and this is for the better development of discussion during this session. Hello. First of all, I thank everyone for the good interventions. I am Dr. Anwar Abu Drifa from Palestine. Palestine for us, the land has a very, very serious connotation, a very serious effect on all the Palestinian people. I represent Palestine, and my brother Alak Tamimi is here also. He can talk about land more than I can, but from a technical aspect, I will talk about 2 points. Technically, we need to have a special presence and a special usage of the new modern technologies in land management. I remember that I was doing a study, reading a study of my brother Albaz from Egypt, who was doing remote sensing to study the Oriental Sahara in Egypt. How was the usage of modern technologies in exploring the Sahara of Egypt? We have also the AI which is trending globally. Well, we can use right now AI in terms of real estate and property exploration. I salute my sister Miriam, who has noted and cited Palestine. She has honored us with her speech, and we cannot exclude the political aspect from the land aspect or the property aspect. Maybe we have a separation. However, when we talk about politics, we talk about lands. When we talk about the example of the person who has talked about owning Gaza, this is a sign that this capitalist invasion needs to be stopped, and the Arabs need to have their words about it. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Mohamed Ougari from the National Center of Housing. I want to ask the intervener from Egypt, who has talked about a new technology that is used in terms of management of lands and property generally. What I want to ask him is, what is the degree of the securitization of property by usage of these modern technologies? Is there a relation between the usage of these technologies and the legal framework of land property in Egypt. How does it relate in terms of securizing what we call in Morocco the cadastre or land registry? So, by using this technology, are we able to secure these land registry and cadastre? Well, the question from a legal standpoint, are the laws related to this land registry related to this technology? Well, the laws are holistic. So, are these technologies included in these laws? Well, we had some problems early on in terms of land registry in Egypt. We had many lands. In which property was not clear, and we have some pieces of lands in which we have many people who claim it as their own, especially when we talk about heritage lands. For example, we have 40 meters owned by 140 heritors. This is why I expect that using technology and smart technology or blockchain technologies, we could use it to deal with these problems, especially when we have 130 inheritors, for example. We can put their names in the registry, and the question here is every one of these inheritors going to be able to use his inherited land correctly? Well, this question has many things to be discussed. The ministry right now has the means. Currently in Egypt, for each property, we will have a QR code, just like the ID for citizens. We have a national number for property right now. And we talk about property, we do not talk about battlements, we do not talk about buildings, we talk about lands. And each piece of the building, for example, will have its own QR code, its own ID. And even for unclear properties, we will have the ways to identify it. I am talking about a facility which works on this, and I wish they were here with us to explain this further. Well, we hope in the next meetings, next conferences, we will have the chance to meet these people. Last question. Thank you for giving me the floor. I am Dr. Khalid Abdel Halim, Registry Officer from Egypt, and I am happy to add on my friend's intervention regarding the efforts of Egypt in terms of digital transition in land registry and property overall. Well, the state has worked on a geographical database for all the properties by using satellite images and air scanning. It is available for us in registry offices, and for this we need different elements to help us, of course, to work and separate between properties and properties reserved for projects, for example. Now, the Egyptian state is opening its hands for the citizens to regulate their exploitation of the lands, especially in the case of citizens who are exploiting state lands. And now we are working for more precise ways of identifying the properties. We have an architectural team that is well trained to give detailed approximations, and this is by using the technologies.
بشكل جيد ولكن هناك لسه يعني لا يزال هناك مجال.
But there is still a lot of space. For example, we have started in some experiences through the Ministry of Local Development by using digitalization in the management of land properties. It can be infrastructure like roads or any projects, any development projects or any local services, because this helps us to create plans for using these land properties. Lady Claudine, I believe you have an answer. What I have understood from your question, sir, the question that you have addressed, creating a fusion between the space and the land registration. Maybe this is the essential idea in your question. Maybe here the answer is the blockchain, as said by the dear experts with GIS technologies. If we create a fusion between them, of course we can answer your question. We need infrastructure and applying and activation administrations that will coordinate between the space or the surface and the land registration. This is for large countries. For small countries like Lebanon, it is easily applicable. This is what we are working on. Thank you, Lady Claudine. To continue what was said by Dr. Khalid, and my name is Tamer Fouda from the HPRO company. We work through satellite imagery and digital sensing and the management of blockchain. We create workflow for the organizations so that when they input the data and the details concerning the lands, we will have a narrowing of the data. We created the database in Egypt. This is the approach that we have conducted. It was not an individual's decision, but the whole country was ready to make a project like this one a reality. We started by narrowing the lands, the property, the state's property and the individual property, and we were also encouraging the individuals to register their properties, because these registrations are one of the most important aspects for the state, to narrow the lands. After doing all of this and fusing this with the database and the workflow, the mappings, the maps that we have created, so that we can put everything and create a relation between reality and the data, so that we can have a system. This is how we were able to reach these solutions. All of this is technological, of course, and also with the support of the state. This is how we were able to reach all of this in Egypt. I remember a day when we were transferring properties through paperwork, which took weeks. But now, with all technologies available, with all intelligence systems available, it is faster, of course. All the legal complex problems or problematics that we've had with without the attendance of the actors, marriage and transfer of property. All of this had to be done with attendance. Therefore, a reform, a review of these laws and registrations or legislations that supervise this matter. All of this is important, and I believe that we can take one more intervention to respect the time allocated for this session. I would like to give a chance to the dear audience if they have any one more intervention before giving the floor for the conclusion to our dear panelists. Dr. Slimia from the institution called the Agency of Research Concerning Lands in Palestine. I will continue what was said already by our partners. Despite all difficulties in Palestine, we use all technologies to know everything about every square meter in Palestine. We have conducted a research study which I would like to share with you. A map, a surface map for alignment of lands with development. We have used the remote system and satellite imagery to know what has to be developed in every square meter of Palestine, and we have also linked all of these to all registered aspects beforehand. This can be a part of maybe this is the secret for Palestinians to be very attached to the lands. No one will know the land as much as a Palestinian, with technologies or without technologies. There are some technologies that we are aware of. We know every square meter what it needs and how can we develop it by technology. We have used technology in a very efficient manner. Now we have a record for all lands, and now we have a program with the institution of urbanism, and the Palestinian authorities have the whole record, and all lands are linked to the previous maps. This is a record for you and for the generations to come, and to confirm that all rights, property rights and land rights do not escape the And now we have the last intervention because we are surpassing the time allocated for this session. Lubna Hawaitaj from Jordan. I would like to talk about the application or the app used in Jordan for the lands. It is an app that covers every square meter in Palestine. You can just enter or type the number of the land so that you can have all the details about the land. This is very efficient technology, but anything that is outside of the database is eliminated. Therefore, there can be no breach or any adjustments that is not official on the database. But for example, in the Wadi Ram region now, the distribution of lands on groups or individuals to protect the indigenous and local communities for no displacement to occur. There is a planning that is taking place. There is an infrastructure management that is taking place. There is also an alignment of the land that is taking place. And the instructions are very clear. The local community can take a look at this data. Now we are creating new technologies and high level technologies also for the well-being of individuals at their households. Before concluding, I would like to give a last chance for our dear panelists. We have 1 minute to each one of our experts to give advice to our dear audience concerning the usage of new technologies for a better field To conclude, I would like to remind everyone, as a civil society, this is our role. We are not only here to provide you with new technologies and new digital solutions or innovative solutions. Why do we use innovation? Innovation can be can emerge from local communities as well. Restoring demolished land, how can we accelerate it and make it technical and fast? Second, the custom lands registration. This is the second topic that we need to move on. It is very important to see why do we use innovation and why is innovation important. Land registration or new technologies, how can we ensure and guarantee investment in lands? This encourages the investors as well. When an investor decides to collaborate with the state and the government, how can this partnership be favorable for the individual, for the investor? How can they be sure about it? We have started a fund, and the first session for the management of the fund, we have chosen a title of ways to partner with the private sector through the partnerships that we already have, and this is to confirm that the registration of lands and projects, how can we guarantee the investor and assure the investor that the partnership is well favorable for them. Something that was raised by Dr. Elbaz, the initiative for reforms in the Egyptian deserts, and the Ministry of Agriculture in Egypt is well represented here. Can you confirm or not? The land is large, and we have used sensing and satellite imagery to know the amount of water that is in the western Egyptian Sahara. The studies of Dr. Elbaz and applying them with the Ministry of Agriculture, this is going good, and thank you. Thank you.
If you allow me, and to conclude this, it's important to secure, to protect, and to give a value to it. So I would like to share with you the Moroccan experience in terms of planning. Morocco has taken different orientations when it comes to urban development. The first important act was to plan everything, to plan the real estate. How can we plan it? First of all, we need to call for the different technologies through drones, pictures, satellite pictures, with our friends from the cadastral services. We have also put in place what we call cards for urbanization, which means that the natural layer which helps us to understand the effect that it might have on climate change. And we have also a geo-portal for urbanization documents, www.tamir.gov.ma. What does this national platform allow us to do? It's the right for urbanistic information or urban information. It's about creating transparency around urban information. And through this national platform, you can have either include the different to draw, in fact, a parcel, and you can do it in an automatic way, and you can have access to urban data or urban information very easily. Other applications that we have put in place, and I would like to take advantage of this to talk about it, in order to help the different governmental programs, especially our programs for inhabitants. You know very well that Morocco has put in place a new process which is to help the acquirer. The Moroccan government today is helping different households who are trying to have access to their first housing or first by a co-funding with the 1/3 amount of it. But in order to implement this program in the most transparent and equitable way, we have put in place an application that you can use, which is called Damsakan. So Morocco, and to continue further in this chain or investment chain of this of real estate, has put in place what we call a platform of dematerializing everything, of different urbanization licenses, what we call rojas in Arabic, which allows not only to deposit documents but also to provide and do the follow-up of demands of urbanizations and economic demands as well. And it also ended with in the investment center. Now we are trying to work on the modelization of urban growth. This is an important tool, which means we need to make sure that we are working at all layers. And the fact that we are doing what we call a modelization, it becomes a tool that allows us to take into account a number of prerequisites. And to conclude, I would like to say that the digitalization is a tool, but it's an important tool. It transforms real estate to a level of sustainable investments for an inclusive urban planning services. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Badri.
Thank you, Lady Claudine. Of course, I will not take too long, but for me, the urban property is a right and something that is to do with the safety and security of people. We should not only work on automation procedures and transaction, we should also work on training and informing the communities that are related and including them in all aspects of the projects. The usage of buildings and sustainability, which is very important as well. Something that I have not said earlier is that in Lebanon we have started the project for the adaptation of buildings and lands, and we scan or screen the government private properties that we can use as housing units or buildings for those that have to make it affordable for the most vulnerable social classes. Dr. Juan.
To especially the member states, because I think there's so many lessons from countries, and then thinking of our continent, the vast continent that we have a lot of challenges. Some of them you've had them identified here, including conflict, including others. But the role of technology cannot be overemphasized in terms of helping us to move towards that. It's not the only solution in terms of technology, but it helps us especially to document rights. If we can use technology, especially for documentation of rights, that is useful. But when you think of the complex nature of customarily held land, especially on the continent, and the fact that there are no land use maps, so technology becomes even that much more important. How do we use technology to help us to map the multiple land rights that exist? Because when things like conflict occur and you have not documented the rights, guess who loses out? It is the most vulnerable. So for us, the issue of technology is extremely important, and it will help us in some ways to address those other challenges, whether it is issues of the marginalized, those livestock holders who do not have any pastoral lands anymore because of individualization of land, for instance. When we go overlaying some of those new ways of dealing with solutions, like we've had in terms of privatization, over lands that we don't know who claimed it, that becomes that much more a problem. So we really need to use technology to help identify those that claim the land, to help us map out where these lands are, what they are used for, and remembering that the land use systems that may look not so profitable are livelihoods of others. So ensuring that we map those is extremely important. And so technology is important, but let's look at the reason why we are using that technology, and that it helps us to address the underlying issues for which we need those that technology are used. This is especially in rural areas, but it's also the case in urban areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. في النهاية أود أن أتقدم.
In the end, I would like to sincerely thank the Kingdom of Morocco for welcoming and hosting this event. I would like to sincerely thank as well all dear colleagues and panelists and experts that have joined me in this panel and allowed me to make these sessions continuous and fruitful so that we can exchange information and also benefit and extract lessons from different experiences concerning this topic. Thank you.
لو سمحتوا استاذنكم الساده معالي الوزراء السيدات والساده الحضور الكرام احنا هنستاذنكم بس ان احنا هنستكمل الجلسه الثانيه احنا بنعتذر جدا بس نستاذنكم لو
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to ask your permission to continue and move to the next session because we are quite late, so we would like to continue with you. There will be a session about the land management in times of crisis, and we will start right away. And we thank you for your understanding. Madam Nihal. I'm calling for Madam Nihal to join us in the platform.